Hello, beautiful people of YouTube. My eyeshadow is a mess, and I look like I am waiting on air traffic control to respond. But I have to come on here and talk about Amber Heard. Like a lot of other people are coming on and talking about Amber Heard because, mm, 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 mm. First of all, oh, yeah, I brought notes. I never bring notes for anything. I brought notes. I wanted to make sure that I had my shit together for this motherfucking video 4 years in the making. Let me light up a cigarette, because you know that is completely important to my thought process. Um, okay, y'all know that I am a feminist. Y'all know, for the most part, I support women. I believe women. I really want to see all of these powerful men in America who get away with raping women, beating women, harassing women. I want to see all their asses brought down. But when it comes to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, even before the audio came out, and if you have not heard that audio, please, I'm going to leave links below. I'm going to talk about it in this video, but I'm going to leave links below to a channel called Incredibly Average. And he has the audio, he's cleaned it up, and he has wrote out what everybody's saying. And he has a really great channel for that shit. And I'm hoping, I think she's going to end up, if y'all don't know, Johnny Depp is suing The Sun in England. Y'all remember the one, if you were alive in the 90s, that harassed Princess Diana, harassed Michael Jackson. Like a bunch of celebrities have had to go after these motherfuckers because they're really slimy and they had like nothing is off limits for them. Well, he's suing them over them calling him a wife beater and basically trying to get him kicked off of the only movie set that would have him after Amber lied her ass off. Um, and I will explain to you in this video exactly why I think Amber lied her ass off. And then if you disagree with me and your only rebuttal is, but, she's a woman, I don't want to hear that shit, okay? Because I know a fucking abuser when I hear one. I have been on the other end of that. And like I said, if you have not heard the recordings, please, I'm going to leave links to all of them and tell you which one's which. Go listen to the fucking recordings. But I'm going to keep it 100. I never believed her nonsense from the start. Because I know if he would have beat Winona Ryder, she would have been telling people. I know if he would have beat Vanessa, she would have been telling people. Like, you don't become the psychotic abuser in your 50s. That's not a thing that happens. Like, it's just not something that happens. And one could hardly blame drugs the way that it seems the son's lawyers are trying to do when he was doing those same goddamn drugs 30 years ago. Let's keep it 100. Like, I'm just saying, he was drinking 30 years ago, never laid his hands on anybody. Apparently, they're grimy asses. I don't think this was the Sun. I think this was Amber's legal team here in America because he's about to go into a lawsuit against her as well. But, um, sorry, my damn hand jerked and my damn cigarette fell out. I cannot tell you how many times a day that happens at times. But anyway, her legal team even paid a PI, the PI that used to do a lot of dirty work for Harvey Weinstein, ironically enough, to try to dig up literally any dirt they could on Johnny Depp. So the story goes, and this was the story he gave to the Daily Mail because he thought they were trying to railroad Johnny. I don't know why he suddenly had a conscience, but whatever. They probably paid him. I don't know. But he said he interviewed 100 people from Johnny's past, like not people that he pays today or anything like that, people from his past, and not one of them had one mean thing to say about that man. So, like, and you can tell in this trial, if you have not been keeping up with it, like, I wait for the updates every afternoon. I'm sitting there. I'll even go to the channels that are essentially what I call the oppressed white man club. You know, the men who sit and act like it's straight white men in America who have it hard. These motherfuckers have built whole channels thanks to Amber. But I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Um, First, let's stick with the facts of the case. But yeah, you don't become a psycho abuser in your 50s. You don't pick one woman that you're just going to suddenly go around beating the shit out of. Like that doesn't happen. So, I had a very hard time believing it from the jump. Um in a second. Oh yeah, from the beginning, more or less, I believe, we knew that the penthouse that they lived in, that all the shit supposedly went down on, in, except for what happened in Australia, but I'll get to that too. Um, that penthouse, there was like 5 or 6 suites in there. Only one was occupied by one of his friends. They lived in two, and the rest of them were occupied by her friends and family rent free. Psycho abusers do not move your friends and family in to be your next door neighbors rent free. That's not a fucking thing. If anything, like what they do is they isolate you, they keep you away from your friends and family. They don't go, oh yeah, yeah, move them on in so they can hear me beat you and hear me. No, no. Like, just no. That is just not what happens. Um, And please keep in mind, I'm not saying it's never happened. What I will say is that in my personal experience, and from the many, 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 many stories that I have either been told or read or what have you, that's not what happens at all. Um, because I'm I don't know if it's a socioeconomic thing. I know rich people probably get away with it more because they get away with everything more in this country. But I know a lot of people who have either been abused by their parents as children or abused by their spouses as adults or both. I myself was severely abused as a child, and even though, like, I was pretty hip from a very young age to the fact that something was not fucking right in my house, I knew the signs, I knew what to look out for, and somehow I still ended up in an abusive relationship with someone just like the family member who abused me. Like, his mind worked just like hers. He played the same fucking games she did, because they all go by the same playbook. That's what I mean when I say if you have ever been with an abuser, or if you have an abuser in your family, or if you know a narcissist or somebody with antisocial personality disorder, and you have not heard these tapes yet, please, I beg you, if you think that Johnny Depp abused Amber Heard, listen to these tapes because it's all there in these recordings. The gaslighting, the invalidation, occasional love bombing, like the way that they will talk in fucking circles when you're proving points, and they will just flat out fucking deny reality existed. See, I didn't let that cigarette burn down. Oh, this gets me fired up. I've been pissed off every day with everything coming in. Because she's sitting there. She's been on the stand since Monday. Johnny was on the stand last week. Johnny admitted he has a fucking drug problem and he drinks too much. And, he admitted his shit. He didn't go, oh, I do drugs because of Amber. Because he's a fucking adult. Amber, on the other hand, when confronted with proof that she's sitting on the stand perjuring herself, lying her ass off, will just blame Johnny. Johnny made me hit him. She has said that repeatedly. She said it in the recordings to Johnny. Well, you make me angry because you walk away and you won't stand there and fist fight me, so I have to hit you. And honestly, I'm going to keep it 100. I think that is exactly what she wanted. When you listen to the recordings and she's not sitting there saying over and over and over again, you beat me, I'm scared of you, you do this, that, and the other. No. What she is saying over and over and over again, and the recordings, here, I even got the titles for you. I'm telling you, I was trying to be organized. It's the recordings that are titled Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, The Real Abuser, Finally Revealed, Uncensored. That is the one. It occurred just a couple of months before their divorce. And as far as I know, they both knew it was being recorded. I don't think it was just Johnny recording her or just her recording Johnny for once, because she was real good about that. She started that shit from the word go, which is another reason why I think her entire plan was to build this case and have him beat her ass a couple times so that she could either blackmail him or just use the courts in general to get every fucking thing he had. And when she's sitting there yelling at him, you're a coward, you always run away, you won't just stand, and he's like, what, stand and fist fight you? No, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm not gonna do that. And every word coming out of her mouth in that area sounded like that's exactly what she wanted. Now, why the fuck else would she have wanted that? Bearing in mind, she has been convicted of domestic violence. She had a wife at one point, and in 2009, she got arrested for DV. Yet you have Johnny's exes from 30 years ago coming out saying, this man is not the man who beats women. You have Vanessa, whom he split up with, what, like a year before he got with Amber, who was with him for 14 years, who's known him 25, saying he's not that man. But she's the one with the domestic violence charge. I'm just saying it doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. And multiple people said, if you can believe this, like I couldn't believe the audacity of this bitch. Kept calling him old and fat and washed up. Johnny Depp. Bitch, please. I'm just saying, who in the hell does she think she is? Lord. That bitch is a year older than me, and I'm telling you what, if I wasn't married, and if Johnny didn't like him so fucking skinny, I'm not gonna go into detail. Y'all might have your kids around, so y'all just, whatever your imagination is saying I would do to him, you're right. She cannot keep a story straight to save her life. Here, I wrote down instances. I got y'all. I'm gonna have to look down at notes. I apologize for that, but she told okay, so for those of you who don't know, this crazy bitch threw a bottle at him that ended up cutting off the top of his middle finger. So now the poor, sexy bastard has to play guitar with only 9 fingertips. It's very sad. But she cut the top of his finger off. And then she pressed record because, in my opinion, I think that she thought, oh, this is it. He's going to beat my ass this time. I'm going to make sure I have it recorded. Or he's going to go berserk verbally. And I'm going to make sure I have it recorded. Well, sucks to be her. All he did was say something about, I wish you knew who you were and how you made me feel. You make me feel so sick of myself. And yeah, he screamed a little bit toward the end there, but he had just had part of a fucking appendage taken off by this bitch. So I feel like that's fair. But I kind of think she might have forgotten in the mix of calling him a coward for leaving and then begging him to stay, telling him how much she loved him. I think she forgot that she was recording because her entire voice changes at the end when she realizes she is recorded. I guess it was 5 hours, but incredibly average kind of cut out all of the, just noise and parts where nobody was saying anything and all that, and just put it together and cleaned it up and made it so you could understand it. And it ended up only being like 36 minutes of them, everybody actually talking. But she's told multiple stories about what happened. The one she told this time was kind of a mixture of the first story and the one she told during her deposition in 2016. And it does not at all relate to what you can actually hear on that tape. Now, keep in mind, Amber was the only one who knew, if she remembered, that they were being recorded. Jerry Judge didn't know. Dr. Kepper, I think his name is, didn't know. Debbie the nurse didn't know. Ben did. Like, nobody else knew. So it's not like it was one big conspiracy to set her up. Because why would they be talking the way they were talking, not knowing they were being recorded, if it wasn't the fucking truth? And in this recording, you can clearly hear them say, a few people, Jerry Judge says it, the doctor says it, she did it. And Jerry Judge even says she admitted to me she did it. But like Johnny was already trying to lie for her by the sounds of it. But he said repeatedly she did it. And then he said she has scratches on her arm. I've seen them on her before. They're self-inflicted. So she cut off his finger and then tried to scratch her arm to justify cutting off his finger. Um, yeah, she was trying to build a goddamn case against him from day one. This shit happened not that long after they got married, I don't think. A couple months, maybe. It was when they were in Australia and he was filming Pirates. Um, and that's not the only incident that happened in Australia. I'm not 100% sure of the dates in between these two incidences, but I believe Australia's where, or maybe they were on his island. Anyway, I'll get to that incident in a minute. But, she's now trying to say that she had no idea he cut his fingertip off until the next morning. But yet she's, like, they're talking like this just happened. They're talking about how there's blood everywhere. And they're talking about how she is acting like a maniac. Not they are acting like maniacs. Not they are, doing X, Y, and Z. It's we have to get her the fuck out of here because she is going to end up starting more fights. And we have to make sure we send someone who can handle her on the plane if she kicks off. There's not one mention of, God, Johnny really lost it this time. None of that. None of that. And yes, the bodyguard was his bodyguard. He's deceased now. And I'm sure he was loyal to Johnny. He said in the thing he was. Because apparently she had called him a fat old man in front of Jerry. And Jerry told Johnny's sister Christy. And Christy said something to her about it, which I don't fucking blame her. Like, that's her brother, and oh yeah, bitch, that's Johnny Depp. Um, I'm just saying. But he said, that's why she doesn't want me to go with her, because they were trying to get her ass back to LA and get her the fuck away from Johnny, because she was acting nuts. And they didn't want it to be fight after fight after fight and her cutting off other body parts while he's trying to film a movie, because that's why he was there. And Jerry was like, because he was on the phone with Christy telling her this latest madness, and he was like, and I told her, yes, I did. I did tell Christy. I'm not going to lie for you. I'm not going to lie to John. So, I mean, yes, he was loyal to Johnny, but the doctor and nurse was treating both of them. They were both patients of theirs. I believe the doctor's an addiction doctor. Um, oh, and you can hear her very plainly on the fucking recording say, well, she found 2 baggies of cocaine and found after they were already speculating, which she didn't know that. They were, Jerry and I think it was Ben were speculating about whether or not she was on coke, and she mixed coke with all of the meds that she was on for her mental issues. And Jerry was going, yeah, like that would make sense. And then they were talking about who might have got it for her and on about that. Well, a little while later, or a little while in the tape, because I'm not where Brian cleaned everything up. I'm not sure exactly how long it was in the sequence of events, but sometime later, she comes down like, oh my god, I found 2 empty baggies of cocaine. And Jerry's like, oh, you did? Yeah, it's not mine. I swear. All I'm on is, I think she said Xanax, Adderall, um, oh my god, what was the rest of it? MDMA, I believe, and another prescription pill. Plus, they had to give her Seroquel to get her to calm the fuck down. Um, so, like I said, this was not a situation where everybody else knew they were being recorded. She was the one who hit record. She did it secretly. She also turned this into, it was either when she got the restraining order or when she filed for divorce. But she turned it into the courts, so apparently she somehow thought it proved her case. I guess because Johnny yelled a little bit at the beginning, even though every word spoken in it contradicts every goddamn thing that she says. Um, everything. But, that's how narcissists and sociopaths are. Because they can justify everything that they do, no matter how heinous or disgusting it is. And typically, how they justify it is, it didn't happen or it was your fault. So maybe when she listens to that, she does hear herself justified by him screaming or whatever it was. But nobody else hears that. I'll just put it to you like that. And I really wish they would have just played that whole thing in court this week because she lied her ass off. Like, I don't know why she's not in jail for perjury yet. Because she lied her motherfucking ass off. Okay, so there's that incident. And again, doctor, nurse, bodyguard, I think it was another bodyguard, like all of these people saying the same thing. She is out of control. She cut his fingertip off. He is trying to lie about it now. Oh, and smashed the bone. She also smashed the bone. And we gotta get her the fuck out of here. Alright, so that was the Australia incident, and I believe that might have been, I'm pretty sure it was 2015, but I can't remember if it was the December incident or what. But I believe it was sometime in 2015 when he was filming Pirates, right? Very shortly after they got married. Okay, so then we go to the big incident that supposedly happened in 2016 when she filed for divorce and filed for the restraining order. All right, we have multiple witnesses, including a female officer trained to spot signs of domestic violence and her partner saying there were no marks on Amber and there was no mess. Now, they smashed the place up a little bit before the second round of officers came that they called. But I believe those officers also said they saw no marks on her. So whatever makeup she put on, she must have switched makeup artists for that one before the pictures that she made sure were taken were taken. The pictures where she's got this little bruise on her cheek, but yet there are pictures of her the day before and the day after. No, no mark at all. Um, anyway, there are 2 people who are saying her bruises existed up against multiple people saying that that's just not true. The two people who are saying, oh, yeah, she had those bruises, were two people who said that back in 2016. Now, there are text messages, which I'll also link below because Incredibly Average was on top of that shit too, between Johnny and Amber's father. Talking, and this was like the day after, or the day that she got the restraining order and started telling people he beat her. And when they're talking, Amber's dad is sitting there telling Johnny, I'm sorry that this had to happen this way. This is what her lawyers were telling her to do. They told her it was the only way she could keep the roof over her head, Johnny's penthouse that all of her friends were living in for free. It's the only way, basically, that she could keep the penthouse. So her lawyers told her to do whatever she had to do to get the restraining order. And Johnny's like, that's bullshit. Her lawyer only asked for 10 days, and I said she could stay there as long as she wanted. I don't think he wanted the motherfucker at the point where they were done. You know how that is. Bad memories and all that. But, excuse me. The phone call that happens after the divorce is filed and after she got a restraining order on him, and yes, she was the one who called him, she says the exact same thing. Yes, she eventually goes into a spiel where she's clearly trying to convince him reality did not exist, and her story is truth. We've all been there too. If you know an abuser or a narcissist or a sociopath, you know that feeling where you know goddamn well it's called gaslighting. Y'all know gaslighting. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, before she tries to convince herself things happen the way she said, she tells him, this is what my lawyers told me to do so I could keep the penthouse. Going back to the text messages between Johnny and her dad and her mom as well, because she also said the same thing. They're both also telling him not only how sorry they are, but how much they love him and they'll always love him. Now, this was supposedly right after he beat the shit out of their baby girl. Would you talk to your daughter's husband like that if he beat the shit out of your daughter? Most people would not do that. Of course not. Let alone for both of them to do it. They knew her ass was lying. They knew it. The two people who are backing up her little story about bruises were two people who said it in 2016 when they were living in the fucking penthouse for free, and Amber keeping that restraining order and keeping that penthouse was how they got to live rent free in a gorgeous fucking penthouse Johnny Depp owned. Now, fast forward a few years, they don't want to admit they perjured themselves. They had something to gain back then by saying this. Now they have something to lose. Because despite what Amber Heard believes, perjury is a crime. I'm just saying. But everybody else, and we are talking multiple people. We are talking about the chick at the front desk at that building, the like bellhop type guy, him, the security for the building, like people who are not employed by Johnny Depp. He owned penthouses. As far as I know, he didn't own the whole damn building. These people were never employed by him. They worked where he lived, but yes, there is also his one friend that got to live by him in the penthouses as well, saying that. Okay, you could argue he has something to gain by it, but because Johnny completely supports him, and the son's lawyers brought that up while trying to make Johnny look bad. I'm not bullshitting you. If you missed it, it went something like this. Talking to his friend. So Johnny Depp funds your entire lifestyle, lets you live rent-free, and gave you $100,000. And he's like, over the course of a few years. Yes. Wow, you really made Johnny look bad. It's a childhood friend of his, and apparently he's an artist, and Johnny takes care of him. Real real shit guy, man, I'm telling you. But anyway, yes, one could argue he has something to gain by saying that. But everybody who works in the goddamn building, who was never employed by Johnny, the stylist that she had, the makeup artist she had at that time, like, oh, the nurse, a different nurse from the one that watched him cut his finger, watched her cut his fingertip off. Not Debbie. This one's name is Erin. Um, she's lying. Like, everybody is lying. Everybody is lying. Even the LAPD, who has nothing to gain by it. She wouldn't even give them her name, so they had no idea who she was at all. The officer said she didn't realize who they were for a couple of weeks. All these people are lying. Amber's the only one telling the truth. Amber and her two friends that perjured themselves to stay in their rent-free, beautiful apartments. Um, Nobody else saw the damage. Nobody else saw the bruises. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it just didn't happen. Um, and like I said, her and her dad both tell Johnny she basically lied to get the restraining order because her lawyer told her to, so he couldn't kick her out of his penthouse. And when she said that, that was in the phone call, so she can't sit there and play well, I was scared, even though she argued with him about everything that came out of his mouth when she was right in front of him. But now she's trying to pretend like she'll sit there and call him a coward and accuse him of needing his bodyguard to save him, and why don't you two go fuck, just go fuck, go suck his dick. But she couldn't correct him about him abusing her. Makes total sense. But anyway, my point in that is it was over the phone, so she can't act like she was so scared of him that she couldn't tell him the truth. Nonsense. Um, in the recording that took place, I guess, a few months before their divorce, where they're talking about basically all the abuse that she's leveled at him throughout their relationship, or at least recently. I don't think they had gone, wait, just recently. Um, I'm pretty sure if I had to take a guess, knowing abusers the way that I do, I doubt she put her hands on him. And so they keep talking about something that happened at the honeymoon. I bet you the honeymoon was the first time because she thought she had him trapped. Because Johnny Depp had only been married one time before, very briefly in the 80s. He was with Vanessa all those years, never married her. So the fact that she, as she put it, worked so hard for that wedding, not we're working so hard on our marriage. No, she distinctly says repeatedly she worked so hard for that wedding. Odd way of putting it. And she got it. And that totally supports what he said about her completely badgering him and pestering him to get married before he went and filmed the Pirates of the Caribbean. I think it was 5. It's either 5 or 6. I lost track after the second one. Whichever one he was filming around 2015, I believe. So, yeah. She, they're sitting there, like I said, if I had to guess, I would say she waited until they were married because she thought she had him trapped. That's a pretty fucking common thing abusers do. They wait until you have a child together or you are married and they think that you're stuck, and that is when they show their true colors. My ex did not lay his hands on me until 2 years after we got together, because that was when we got full custody of his daughter I raised, and he thought I was going nowhere because then I would lose her, which is exactly what ended up happening. But that's a video for another day. Um, so in this recording that happened a couple of months before their divorce, this was the day after she punched him in the jaw, which is an incident that has been talked about because there is the recording in her deposition where she lied her ass off because she didn't know how much tape they had. And now again on the stand for the last 3 days, lying her ass off about this. All right. In the recording, Johnny's very fucking clear. about what he is saying. Very clear. He says they're talking about he was trying to get away, escape, get the hell away from her, and go into the bathroom. She followed him. She was trying to break the door down. He says, fuck it, goes to open the door. He scrapes her toes. I am sure she threw a massive fit and act like he beat her ass. Because that's another common thing they do. So he bent down to check her foot, and she took the door and slammed it straight into his forehead, the corner of his head. He jumped up and said, "What the fuck, man?" And she clocked him right in the jaw. She wants us to believe that when he said, "You clocked me right in the fucking jaw," he meant pushed. Because, that's normal behavior. People push people in the jaw. Oh, every day. So there's that. That was the divorce deposition. I can't remember what she said this week because it was just all, lies. They all ran together. Anyway, she, on the stand, turned this around to he was the one chasing her, trying to get in the bathroom door. And she was trying to escape for her life, y'all. For her life. And somehow she still hit him with the door, even though in her scenario he's on the other side of the door, which means the door would have to open backwards. And her story makes no sense. Why does it make no sense? Because she was making it up as she went along when confronted with Johnny's voice saying exactly what she did and her responding with, "I didn't mean to hit you with the door." And he's like, "Oh, but you meant to punch me in the jaw." And then that's when she goes on her little tirade about, "You were not punched. I'm sorry I didn't use a proper slap, but you were not punched. You're not punched, Johnny." And he's like, "Don't fucking tell me what it feels like to be punched." "Oh, I know, because you're older, you have all this experience, blah, blah, blah." "Yeah, I know." Once again, referencing his age. It was just nothing but gaslighting and invalidation over and over and over again, which is, their MO. So yeah, she lied about that multiple times now under oath on different fucking courtroom stage or boxes, witness boxes. She just lied. And she then claims that she only hit him one time, and it was when he was going after her baby sister, who's only 2 years younger than her, by the way. And no, he didn't touch Whitney, but she thought he was going to. Now, this week, she added some story about him pushing Kate Moss down the stairs when they dated in the 90s, which I've never heard that story before. I don't know where she got that information. She couldn't say Winona and Vanessa because they've already testified that he's never done anything like that. So I guess she had to name the only other person he was with in the 90s. Oh, Kate Moss. But yeah, that's her story. She only hit him the one time because he was going after Whitney, and now she's added Kate Moss being pushed down the stairs for her reason why. Except, we have her on recording admitting to punching him in the goddamn jaw. Oh, sorry, hitting him, because it wasn't a punch. He was not punched. Let's not forget that. And like I said, once again, the way that she fucking describes the incident, the door would have to open the opposite way for that to work. Okay. She essentially wants all of us to suspend all logic and common sense and go with the concept and the idea that about 25 witnesses, which include a female cop trained in domestic violence detection, like she specified, she is trained to deal with or recognize the situation that often happens where women are beat, neighbors do call the cops, and they don't tell the truth because they're scared or they don't want to leave or whatever. She is literally trained to see subtle signs of that, which is what she was looking for that day because she was told it was domestic violence. That's why they sent her. Um, and yet she saw no signs, no marks on her face, none of this mess they claim he left, absolutely nothing. Like I said, don't quote me on this one, but I believe the second set of officers they called out, except for the glass that these damn idiots had broken, her and her stupid ass friends, there was no evidence of it. In addition to the cop, she also wants us to believe that a doctor, a nurse, a makeup artist, people who just worked for the building, people who worked for her, her own personal assistant, I believe it was a different personal assistant whose rape story she stole. Real classy bitch. Um, and people who worked for him a long time ago and don't work for him anymore. People who have nothing to gain by getting on a stand and lying for him, who are all coming in saying the exact same thing. She was extremely violent. He was one of the nicest people they have ever met. They are all lying. The only people telling the truth in this situation are her and the two people who had something to gain by her having the restraining order against him at the time and who would now have to perjure themselves to tell the truth. But she wants you to believe that you should believe her, even though you can go back and listen to recordings that prove she is a fucking liar. Like, you gotta love people like this because they will lie to the bitter fucking end. It's not their fault they didn't do it. If you can prove they did it, it's yes, but this is how it's your fault. Like, and on and on. And then when you've called them out on all that and they have nowhere else to run, they insult, they deflect, they project, and they talk in fucking circles. If y'all have ever seen the movie Save the Last Dance, the part where dude goes, or where she tells the dude, you talk a lot of shit for someone who never really says anything. That's what they do. When they have run out of all other options, they will just talk in circles. And you can totally hear it in that recording from before the divorce was filed. By the end of it, he's the one apologizing, even though he was the one who got punched the night before because he was at his friend's too long, his friend who lived right next door, by the way. And apparently, according to him, he apologized to her for that. And yet she still went the fuck off and punched him and all this shit. And she was trying to say, no, it was not about you being in Isaac's too long. And he kept asking her, then what was it about? Well, I can't voice my feelings about being upset about that. Well, apparently she did, or what did he say I'm sorry for? Because she acknowledges he said I'm sorry the night before. Like, this is the shit they do to you, and by the end of it, it is your fault, you did it, and you are the one apologizing. And you can hear her do that to him over and over again, and it's really fucking heartbreaking. Especially if you've been in that situation. Because, especially after they filed, well, she filed for divorce because he told her he was leaving her after her and her friend shit on his bed. Yes, that's a real thing. Look it up. He was done. At that point, gee, I cannot imagine why. You can punch him in the face, but when you go shitting on his bed, you have gone too far. Oh my god. That bitch is nuts. Anyway, allegedly. Go on ahead and come for me. I have nothing anyway. But, anyway, he had already told her he was going to file. He just hadn't filed yet. Knowing Johnny, he was probably trying to figure out a way to do it that benefited her entirely. And she did the filing and then ran for a restraining order because her lawyers told her to so she could keep the penthouse. How? How is this bitch not in jail yet? How? Anyway. Okay. But yeah, You can hear in the recordings after she filed for divorce, and he's trying to tell her, like, this is not going to end well for you, Amber. And she literally said to him, no one's going to believe that for the past 3 years I've been faking evidence, taking pictures, and texting my friends and family, and then just sitting on it until the time was right. Nobody said that. He at no point said that. You gotta love how narcissists and psychopaths cannot help but give themselves away. You let it, you know that old saying, give them enough rope to hang themselves? 100%. 100%. Because they do, every time. For one thing, they cannot keep their tiny lies straight. Maybe the big bare bones of the big lies they can keep straight, but they always have to embellish on it. Plus, if they're called out with evidence that they're lying, they always have to make up another story and make up another story. And you know how that goes. If you've been around somebody like that, you know. And those are the lies they cannot keep straight to save their lives. How could they? Like, they just spout them out without even really thinking about it half of the time. They just come up with this shit. And if you ask him 10 minutes later, well, what did you just say there? They have no idea. Because they talk so much shit, they can't keep up with it. And she's real bad about that. Like, real bad. But, like, you listen to those recordings, and if you've been in an abusive situation of any kind, you will recognize that she is the abuser. You will recognize every single tactic that she uses. Every one of them. Let's see. Hang on a second. I wanted to get, because I had grabbed some quotes. Oh, at one point during the first recording, the one before the divorce, because like I said, all she kept doing was bitching about him running away. Never was it, you beat me, you're merciless to me, you pulled my hair out by the root. Nothing. None of that. And again, keep in mind, it's just a couple months before they got the divorce. So this is supposed to be after all these, then she added him raping her to the fingertip incident and him ripping off her her nightgown and putting raw meat in it, and she's fucking mental. But allegedly. But like, he repeatedly tells her she's calling him a coward and saying that he's not man enough to stand there, and he's like, what, fight you? No, I'm not going to fight you, Amber. And at one point she says something like, don't act like you don't participate. And he's like, Amber, I shoved you one time to get you off of me because we were on a train and I couldn't get away from you. So, and she doesn't counter that. She doesn't push back. She doesn't say, motherfucker, you beat my face in, you headbutted me, you raped me. Nothing like that. So, that tells me she made that shit up so she could try to keep the penthouse. I mean, what we already know here. And like I said, I absolutely urge you guys. I'm going to put the videos that I've talked about by Incredibly Average at the end of my channel, or at the end of in the description box. And I urge you guys to go listen to them. Like, everything will be very, very clear. That man stayed calm and cool as a motherfucker while she lied and put the blame on him over and over and over and over again. And he didn't really raise his voice. There were a couple of times she pissed him off. But for the most part, like, he didn't shout at her at all. He was calm and even keeled and perfectly mature and grown up about it. Meanwhile, she sounds like a spoiled child who's not getting her way. Only she had a tendency to punch him in the face and it actually made an impact. That's the difference when you're dealing with an adult spoiled child. Oh, and she keeps saying Johnny is twice her size. Alright, y'all, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. For one, look up a picture of the two of them side by side. You will laugh. twice her size. Get the fuck out of here. For two, okay, the internet says he's 5'10". The lies he tells, I would be shocked if he was 5'9", let alone 5'10", because he looks more like 5'8", and she is taller than him with heels. And she's talking like he's The Rock. Johnny, for being a man, is really small built. Like, come on, y'all bitches have watched him and looked at him from every fucking square inch. You know what his body looks like. Twice her size. But she keeps saying that to minimize what she's done to him. Because you always minimize. My God, always minimize. If you can't lie your way out of it and he won't let you place the blame on him, minimize that shit. But, yeah, she, hang on, because I got another list. Okay, I already talked about that. Oh, yeah, the fight from December 15th, there is proof that he was the one who was injured that day. He was the one with the black eye. You can see a picture of them going out to dinner that night. She has no marks on her face. So this bullshit story about, oh, my face was all fucked up when I went on the James Corden story is just that. It is absolute bullshit. It, it didn't happen. And even the makeup artist that was with her that night says she tried to convince the makeup artist that there were marks on her face. And the makeup artist is going, I don't see a single mark on your face. While she's trying to convince this woman she has a broken nose and two black eyes. Bitch, please. You can tell no one has ever actually whooped her ass. At least not since she's been an adult. Because she has no idea what it looks like or what it feels like when you get a beating. Don't get me wrong. She tried really, really hard. I'm going to guess she was volunteering as domestic violence shelters or something. Because she tries really hard to put on the act of being a woman who's been a victim of domestic violence. She tries real hard. Right down to wearing plain clothes in court and all that fucking nonsense. But the thing is, she is a horrible actress. So all you gotta do is watch her, and you can pretty well see right through that. She's a horrible actress. And I guarantee once Johnny wins these suits, because I'm crossing both fingers that he wins both of them. He needs to. He should. Once he wins his suits, that bitch is going to slink off into the night. We're never going to hear from her again. Because even since they've been divorced, she has still only remained relevant by being Johnny Depp's abused wife he beat. Period. Period. And, I don't know where Io Tillett is in all this. Oh, wait, didn't they prove he was in, like, Cincinnati or Colorado or something like that? And he never saw the aftermath. And I think that might be why he ain't testifying. But she repeatedly says that Johnny running away is why she has to beat on him. That's why she beats him. He made her do it. It's the typical you made me do it bullshit. I know this is getting really long. I'm almost done. I talked about how she repeatedly talked about working so hard to marry him. Oh, after the divorce was filed, that video, you can you can clearly see if you've been a victim of gaslighting. You can hear her gaslighting him. She was literally trying to convince him his reality was not what happened. It was the story that she was telling. And even though he has multitude of proof to the contrary, that's not what happened. Like, quit acting like your reality is reality. What I am telling you is what happened. She even tried to convince him that his lawyers were the ones lying to him, not her. Here, moral of the story, y'all, and I'm guessing this is what it's going to be in the suit against her as well. Everybody's lying but Amby. Poor little Amber. She's the only one telling the truth. I mean, I'm just saying, y'all. I am just saying. I mean, if it was just witness testimony, and it was all people still employed by him or his besties or whatever, that wouldn't hold much weight with me. But it's not. And there are pictures of his bruises, and they do actually look like bruises, and they do actually have swelling around them. And it's not just, oh, my face has a little purple. Don't touch it. Don't wipe at it. It's just take it as it is. And plus, like I said, you can hear it in every word she says. And now, thanks to dear old Amber trying to get Johnny for every fucking thing he had, the Me Too movement, who still has not, the chick who is the co-founder that was buddy with her has distanced herself. But the Me Too movement itself has not come out and said, we no longer support Amber Heard. We were lied to. She's a fucking abuser. So, she is being used to discredit Me Too, Time's Up, women filing charges against men basically for anything. Like I said, there are men who have built entire channels on this. You can look it up. Just look up Johnny Depp Amber Heard court case. You'll see it. You'll hear it real quick. I mean, she is that mythical woman that they use to keep us rape victims from filing and going to the cops with what happened to us, that mythical woman that lies about her experience. Now they have her in the goddamn flesh, and they don't give a fuck about Johnny Depp. They're all acting like they're on Johnny's side. They're major right-wingers. They are not on Johnny's side. They are just very much against Amber, which is fine. I'm against Amber. But like I said, these are people who have other videos on their channel supporting people like Ron Jeremy and other people who have been convicted of rape, and, they're using her. She is about as anti-fucking feminist as you get, because she has just set women back decades. And the fact that the Me Too movement is still attached to her and still has not said, we don't support this crazy abusive bitch, they might as well not exist at this point. Because she is being used to completely discredit them, and they're allowing it to happen. Is she worth all that? Because I would have thought, now the chick who's the co-founder that was her buddy did come out and say, I'm not going to testify for Amber because I was misled about the nature of the relationship. Basically, this bitch beat Johnny and lied to my face. Okay, fine. Now when is the Me Too movement and Time's Up gonna come out and say she is no longer a spokesperson for us? She has nothing to do with us. We were lied to as soon as we found out the truth. But no, let me guess. Just like Hollywood, they're waiting to see how these trials end up. Even though we have proof, even though we have tapes, even though anybody can get on YouTube and listen to the fucking abuse. They're just gonna wait and see what happens. And by that point, all of these men in the oppressed white man club will have shredded them to pieces. Because they're right. In this one case, they are right. Amber is a goddamn liar. And she not only lied on Johnny, but she then came out to be the poster child for survivors of domestic violence and rape, neither of which she has actually gone through. Which we know now, since we've debunked her bullshit with Johnny. And, she did go through domestic violence, but she was the aggressor. Even to the point of being, charged and everything. But, yeah, one of her personal assistants came out and said she completely stole her rape story. She stole it. So, she wasn't raped either. Of course not. These people are always the victim. And look, she got the biggest fucking job of her life by being the victim of Johnny Depp. So it worked for her. Oh my God. So yeah, she is about as anti-feminist as it gets. And when she had the audacity to sit there in that courtroom this week and make the remark, well, Johnny just doesn't like strong women, which I feel was a straight up dig on Winona Ryder and Vanessa Paradis because they wrote and said that he's not an abusive man. Um, that's absolute nonsense. I guarantee you, Winona and Vanessa are far stronger than this weak ass parasitic bitch who her game plan was attach myself to a man, get everything he has, or get more than I would have with my lack of fucking acting ability by playing his victim. There's a difference between being a survivor and being a victim. Well, first you have to actually suffer the rape or the abuse. That's step number one, y'all. But there's a difference between being a victim and a survivor. Even though she said it over and over and over, I'm a survivor. She was not acting like a survivor. She was acting like a victim because it paid better for her. And it worked. So, yes, I am a feminist survivor of abuse, physical, mental, sexual, emotional. Um, and I do not stand with Amber Heard. In fact, Amber Heard can kiss my ass. She's a liar, she's a fraud, she's a cheat. She used love bombing, she used gaslighting, she used deflection, she used every trick in the narcissist antisocial personality disorder fucking playbook. Right down to apparently saying that she loved Johnny's movies and now saying she's never seen any of Johnny's movies. I call bullshit on that. I call bullshit on that. I'm sorry. She's a year older than I am, and my entire childhood was Johnny Depp movies. But then again, I have class. Okay, I don't. But I have wonderful taste in movies. And really sexy men. So, there you go. Alright, y'all. And I just wanted to come on here and get that out and explain from a feminist survivor point of view why I cannot stand Amber Heard and I never believed the fucking words she said about Johnny Depp. Love and light to all of you. And I mean it. If you haven't listened to them before, you gotta listen to those recordings. I'm gonna put them on the description box and tell you which one's which. Alright? I love you all.